104.2. I'm calling the vet.
In case you missed the last video, I won the horse auction recently and bought my first little Frisian. She's a 1-year-old Frisian who is now called Drakaina. Unfortunately, she picked up something either before, during, or after the auction, and she arrived home, and immediately that same night I called the vet for an emergency visit, and we administered antibiotics and Benamine because her temperature had reached 103.8. We gave her the Benamine and Exceed, and she quickly responded. But unfortunately, during the night, we had a quarantine breach, and my little pony, my little Viking pony, Reese's, also is now in quarantine with her because of the exposure. So now the vet is on her way over, and we're going to check her vitals and see how she's doing, but she appears to be adjusted nicely.
Good girl. Good girl. She's only had 6 weeks of handling.
Yeah. So was she bred in Indiana?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think so. Good girl.
It's hard to believe she's such a baby
Yeah.
because she's as big as some horses are full size.
And she built so nicely. Hey.
Yeah, it's pretty horse.
Yeah.
Okay. So when did her nose dry up? Have you seen it more?
Her nose I would say the majority of it dried up the next day after the Exceed. So that was relatively fast.
Right.
And then the coughing, I do think the coughing has gone. I do think the coughing was gone, but then today I heard it again when I was with her this morning. But it was only one time. So yeah. She didn't eat grain on Friday or Saturday.
Uh-huh.
But she ate the grain on
You'd offered
Sunday.
it to her, but she didn't want it.
She didn't want it.
Yeah.
But she ate the grain on Monday.
Still have a fever at that point?
No. Oh no, the emu was eating this stuff. Is there anything in there that will...
Don't hurt yourself, but don't take my...
I wonder if I should get them. Will you put them over here? Sure. Yes, she's gonna.
Oh, pony.
Good boy. She was good the first time about doing it. Good girl.
Just bring a little blood.
That was excellent. That's pulling the blood,
That's
right?
pulling the blood to run the test. So let me get that started because it takes, I'll come out here, it takes 9 minutes for it to run.
And that's the SA test?
SAA,
And what does SSA stand for?
Serum, it's SAA, serum amyloid A.
Got it.
And it's a pretty sensitive indication of infection or inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we use it to monitor.
And the SSA levels were slightly raised on the last test, right? Or no?
Yeah.
They were 800 out of, it should have been 50. They were
50,
800.
Yeah, so they were 850. That's what it was that night.
And that would indicate
infection.
And then I know the other test was ran that wasn't high.
I think the CBC was all right. I think she did a CBC, and then we're waiting on the results of the respiratory panel for different respiratory diseases to see if any of them come back positive.
Got it. And what does CBC stand for?
Complete blood count. It measures the total white count and red count and the different types of white cells, which, depending on which ones are elevated, would tell us if she had she didn't have a very high.
And then, so the next test, it tests for, you said upper respiratory?
Yeah, or just respiratory diseases in general. Test for strangles and flu and rhino and different ones like that.
So this is the emu paddock. I guess it's also now the quarantine paddock. But I do turn the horses out here in the summer because it's just the UVA, UVB rays. My friend Bree wanted to know, since now that she's exposed to this paddock, like I guess, do we have to treat this with Damascus or anything? Or do you think that depending on what she has, then we
just need to see what she has. Some things, like some virus particles, don't live outside of the horse very long. So if what she had was a virus, then, by the time you get her horses back in here, they will have been dissipated.
Okay, awesome. And then Bree, my friend, wanted to know, since so he was nose to nose, so he's quarantined with her.
Yeah.
Does he need to, do we just look for what would we protocol for him? Just look for clinical signs?
Yeah, fever, snotty nose, cough, not wanting to eat.
Don't administer anything.
I wouldn't. No. Because often, if we knew it actually was strangled, there's a lot of thought that you don't give them antibiotics.
You don't do good.
Because you want it, if it settles in the abscesses in the head area, you want it to come to a head and drain. Because if you squelch it,
they need to hear that. So
if you squelch it and it kind of calms down the lymph node that's starting to abscess, but it doesn't drain out, it can pass into the body. And I had years ago that had a horse that ended up colicking, and they euthanized it because it had a huge abscess in its belly.
As a result of the strangle.
And after they got to talking, the trainer said, it got a cold while it was here, and I gave it 2 doses of penicillin.
Well, that protocol?
Huh?
Trainers did that about asking the...
Yes. And that drove it inside. So if we think it's strangles, once they start antibiotics, then you have to keep them on it long enough till you're hopefully sure it's not elsewhere in the body.
Got it. She's behaved, right?
Everything sounds good. Sometimes if they have secretions up in their head, you can hear it kind of rattly. And in her trachea, but they sound fine. So, have you been checking her temperature?
Yep, day and night. So
What?
She's been between 100.3 and 100.7.
Say 103?
One night, she was at 101.3. So I gave her Banamine.
Yeah, you gave her that the first night.
Yep, I gave her the Banamine the first night. It worked immediately. And then only one other time she had like a 101.3, which was 0.2 outside like that range. So in case it creeps during the night, I gave her some Banamine at one. So she only had Banamine twice.
Okay.
And it was administered orally.
Okay. And that a few days ago?
Yep. And that was probably Saturday or Sunday. And since then, she's ranged 103 to 107. 100.7.
Don't scare me, Jack.
That would probably be a definitely
a very ill horse at 107.
Have you ever seen that?
A few that have had really bad infections or overheating. But fortunately, that doesn't happen too often. Get 98.9. That's fine.
That's the lowest it's been.
Okay, good.
Like 100 is what's done.
Yeah, and some thermometers read a little higher or lower, but that yours and that is still within normal range. Great. Okay, I don't feel a lump on either side.
I know for a fact on the left side is where she pulled. I think she may have injected on the right.
Okay. Well, I can inject on the left. It doesn't feel bad at all.
Yep.
And she's not getting as big an amount of blood, of course. Anyway.
How was the Exceed administered?
Seed in the muscle.
In the muscles is interesting.
Yeah, deep muscle. So you think Amanda might have given it on this side?
Because I know that she poured blood from the...
Good girl.
It's the last one.
It'll kind of depend on what the SAA result is and how she does. Sometimes we give, usually 2 is enough. You are being very well behaved, especially considering the, her age and the amount of training she's had.
Yep.
Okay, let me see if that test is done running.
Do you see anything nasal discharge in her now?
No, I mean, she's a little dirty.
Yeah.
But that could be old, and it doesn't look moist and fresh.
Yep.
And her lungs sounded good. I didn't feel anything. The lymph nodes up. Because sometimes they'll abscess lymph nodes under the here or behind here, and they're not enlarged at all.
Awesome.
So that's a good sign.
Good girl. I'm just going through the comments now to see if there's any more questions to ask the vet. But thanks, everybody. Okay, have your profile shared or no?
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't mind about that? Okay. Good. You said you saw the channel before. It's Curious Horse.
No, I'll have to look at it.
Yeah.
The SAA is 271. So that's better.
better than 850.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So hopefully that means it's on its way down.
Yeah.
But we should probably recheck in 4 days, recheck it again, and potentially maybe we'll wait till we get the result by then.
Yeah.
Before we give it, and make sure that it's back to normal.
Yep.
And if it's not, we'll give her a third dose.
Third dose, and that day would know what end of week you think.
Saturday would be day 4.
When does the results come in?
Oh, 9 minutes. It just
Oh,
runs
9 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, extra.
it
Cool.
runs right there on the truck.
Definitely a respiratory, would you say?
Yeah, just because she had respiratory signs. I mean, she had the cough, the runny nose, the fever.
Yeah.
So it was all. Now, some of that may have been partly because of the stress of the trailering.
She went to 4. She's gone to like 4 barns or something.
Yeah. And, who knows where she picked up whatever she had. And hopefully by the end of the week, we will know whether any of the tests on the respiratory disease panel comes back positive, and then we'll know more exactly what she probably was fighting. But supportive care, like you've been doing, keeping her isolated as best you can. Now you're in here for friendship, but it might be keeping her quieter.
Yeah, I think it is. I break the protocol, and then they said nose to nose, nose to nose.
Yes, yes. And then, wash your boots off, change clothes between this field and the other, just try to keep any exposure. But if she's not actively coughing or draining gunk out, that's helps.
Yep.
Decrease the contamination of the field.
She's definitely not, no nasal discharge, and you didn't see her cough maybe once or twice yesterday. I know you once today. So,
right.
So it's minimal. Somebody said too, how long until you think how long will they be isolated from the herd?
Well, let's wait until her SAA is normal, and I would wait at least 2 weeks past that end of the clinical signs.
Yep.
And then we'll also see what the panel shows, because then we'll know if she has one of those diseases, what the typical length of incubation of the disease is and how long we have to.
And incubation means that it's still growing?
Yeah, incubation is from when they're exposed to it in a viable form and how long till they get sick and how long they're sick and shed it. Kind of, that's not all incubation, but some diseases they can shed longer than others. And then you need to keep her isolated until we're sure we're past that stage where she could share it with somebody else.
Got it.
But it's clinically, she's looking better. So that's all encouraging.
Yep. And at the barn I was at, they had the beautiful barn. They had automatic water troughs. And it was full of hay and gunk, but she didn't eat. I don't know if it could have been from her, the gunk,
Right. But,
yeah.
Those aren't the best for sure.
Oh.
Yeah. But anytime they're out in the field with a communal trough, there's always a risk of spreading. And then we'll talk about her vaccines once we know completely we're covered from this. And if it was strangles, we'll probably do a titer on her before we vaccinate her.
Do a
titer measure, that encourages spreading
disease. I didn't feel comfortable getting water from that barn, so I had water. It follows in the truck, and she chugged and chugged and chugged.
Yeah, well, she probably was thirsty. And some horses just don't know how to drink from an automatic water, even if she didn't like the gunk in it. Some horses need to be taught how to use one.
Use it.
Yeah. If they're individual, like we have some farms that have one in each stall, and then they're fine. It's just that horse, and they drink well.
Yeah, because
her antibody level of how many antibodies she made. Because if their titer's above a certain level, then you don't want to vaccinate until it has time to drop down. It could make them sick
and that's kill them. How typically is? Oh, it can
cause purpura hemorrhagica if you over vaccinate or they get overexposed to strangles, and that can be a serious disease. And I have seen horses die of purpura.
And that's excessive vaccination.
It can be. Yeah. It can be, or it can just be from a really bad case of strangles.
Wow.
So if their titer is above a certain level, we recommend you not vaccinate and then recheck the titer in 6 to 12 months. All right.
I did call. So she was in a trailer with like 8 or 9 horses or something. And I know one of the horses that when the owners that bought her mother, that also owned her grandmother. But I called them and they were Amish, but I called them at midnight and they answered. And I just let them know that what she's going on with her, and they didn't have any symptoms.
Okay.
Just keep them.
Oh, that was nice to let them know.
Seems like if one horse had typically all of them were.
It just depends if they have any immunity from past experience with it, how close they got, how much, how healthy they are, how much stress they're under.
Is there a vaccination that can prevent this if it strangles,
There is a vaccine for strangles.
but not for the upper respiratory?
Well, I mean, there are lots of things that cause upper respiratories,
Okay.
but some of them there are vaccines for flu, rhino, strangles. There are vaccines for those.
So the fact that he got vaccinated all throughout the year and recently, and my horse, his has less of a chance of getting sick.
Right. Because if what she has is something he was vaccinated for, he still could get it, but it'd be much less likely. But there are some respiratory diseases that aren't vaccines for.
Got it.
We'll do another SAA on Saturday.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Come on, babe. You gotta back up. So I'm running out of clothes for quarantine. I've changed my clothes 6 times a day. And I've made sure that only the good shoes have gone around, like the resident horses, like my main herd. Then end with the Drakaina. And that was my process, but I've run out of good shoes and clothes. So I'm going to Tractor Supply, going to pick up some shoes because we cannot get the big herd sick. So that's the plan.
And I also want to separate the feeding stations on the grounds. So there's a feeding station for the quarantine horses and non-quarantine horses, just for an extra precaution. I just think would be a great idea.
It's heavy. I got brain freeze. Have you ever had brain freeze before? It's so bad. Eat salt.
I also have to get other supplements, dewormers, salts, conditioners, antibacterials. These are all important when you're going through like the weather changes I've noticed.
We need like an antibacterial on Patreon. And then we need something to make their hoofs more conditioned. We need the fungal. We need this Patreon. Oh, there's salt. Himalayan. So I usually do two in each paddock. And then I need a conditioner for their hoofs. Hoof conditioner, yeah. Because the weather has been changing so much. Treats that are for hoof care. Treats. Dewormer. So dewormer, I like to mix them up. 2, 4. I know she was on Panicure. I never did Panicure before. I'm going to switch the Panicure for our horses. 2, 4, 6, 8. It looks like I don't know if this is waterproof, do you? Is it going to be cold where I'm going? Freezing, right? So large. I did that is small. Why are they all so big? I don't understand. Everything is the aisle by size? It's a double XL. We're gonna walk here and then we're done. I need a pair of these for contamination. They have this in a size 9, I'd buy them. Quite nice, aren't they? Contamination boots. There's no price on it. Maybe it's buy one, get one. Fast. How much is that? Yes. $3.83. There was no point.
So far, we have had 3 vet visits. The emergency visit on the night that Drakaina arrived.
As soon as I have lab results, I'll call you too.
Where we gave her the Exceed and the Banamine, which has controlled her temperature. Drakaina had her second visit where she got her Exceed. And we've also been monitoring Reese's temperature. I don't have it on camera because I was just so distraught. But last night, Reese also came down with a high temperature, and the vet came down for an emergency visit where he was administered Exceed. And now I've been monitoring his temperature back and forth, and it's just not stabilizing.
$104.2. I'm calling the vet. Batting me 104.2. That is crazy.
I expected the temperature to rise slightly, but this is way outside my comfort zone. I don't feel comfortable.
4.2 working out. I'm about to pull the fat, but first I'm going to give him the Banamine. Poor guy, this was my mistake, and I just
This is a nightmare. How's the Benamine not working?
104.2. So yesterday, Reese was at 103.2. The vet came out and I gave him Batamine and we dropped to 102. She did suspect his temperature was going to creep because we caught it so early. He just had a bowel movement. I don't think that's the reason for the temperature increase. But I'm going to ask my vet to see what she thinks. It could be normal. I've never seen this before, so obviously I'm freaking out.
The Benamine does work, but it doesn't last like a full 8 hours, which is frustrating. I feel like on Drakaina it was more stable, but with Reese it doesn't last that long.
So I gave him the Banamine. And we're going to check his temperature for 30 minutes to see if it comes down. I'm sorry, baby. Thank God he was on antibiotics yesterday. We're hoping that we get the blood results back from Drakaina so we can kind of know what they have, but they're still being processed. Thank you, Anisha. The vet did say that she suspected that his temperature would creep because he got it so early. So she did think it was going to creep up. Maybe that's normal. I have to ask. Yeah, recording.
So while waiting on the vet to call me back, I'm just kind of documenting his clinicals and applying her instructions to control the temperature with the Banamine. In addition to administering the Banamine to cool down my little Viking's temperature, my vet has also instructed me to cool down Reese's temperature by using water. And the water should be cooler than the horse's temperature in general, so that the heat can be lost through evaporation or convection. You also want to scrape the water off after you're done. And this is so, which is not that intuitive, but it makes sense now. It's so that the water doesn't trap the heat, so you want to make sure you scrape that away. My little pony Reese, who I also call my little Viking, for obvious reasons, I also won him at the auction. He was quite a little talented man, as he rides and drives, and he's the best $2,000 I could have ever spent. I initially bought him to assist Patriot going through the weaning process. And I had 3 homes lined up for him for once the weaning process was complete. However, he quickly won my heart over when I was riding Sarge in the paddock and just watching how brave he was and his interaction. It was remarkable, and he won me over. And he's now my farm mascot, and I call him my little Viking.
Reese! Did you notice that Drakaina was harder to catch? I'm not sure. I gave him a bath over there. I think he does seem a little bit more alert than before. And also, you see he's wet? That's from the sponge bath that vet told me to give him. 101.8. I'm do it one more time. He's at 101.7.
Much better. That said, if he's above 102, give him the Banamine because Pony's stomach's so weird. So, it's below, so he can't have Banamine till tonight. But I feel better now. I'm sorry, Reese. Just when I started to become optimistic, our little Viking's temperature again unstabilized. These fluctuations seem highly irregular. Perhaps this is just the body's natural reactive response. It's so frustrating.
Just took his temperature. He's at 104.1. I mean, the Banamine did work, but I feel like it should work for more than, 8 hours. Maybe that's normal. First, it was at 9:30. He was like 104-ish. And if we give him Banamine and he went down to 101. So now it's almost 5. And he's back up to 104.1. I thought the Banamine would keep his temperature down for longer, so it makes me nervous, but I'm going to give him some more Banamine. Just message the vet, and I'm going to give him a little bath to cool him down.
Our results came in for Drakaina, and she is positive for the flu, or the influenza. And this is a type of virus that just has to run its course, essentially. Not only does she have a virus, but she also has strep. And strep is a type of bacterial infection. Strangles is also caused from, or is a type of strep, but it's a different type of bacteria, thankfully. So we are all clear on the strangles. So it does seem like the decision by my vets to put her on Exceed that first night that we bring her in for the emergency visit was the right course of action. And at this time, Reese's temperature is still fluctuating. We don't know for absolute certainty what he has, but we are sure that he either has some type of viral or bacterial or both. Prayers for Reese, keep him in your mind, and I'm just hoping that my little Viking can pull through. My vet's coming out tomorrow, which will be the 4th visit, and we will determine if Drakaina needs an extra dose of Exceed, and if Reese's also needs an extra dose of Exceed. Again, this was my thought. I made a huge mistake, and there's no excuse for it. It was a learning lesson. I feel horrendous, but it's important for me to share the truth about buying a horse at an auction, and when a farm owner has a mistake, to use this as a learning opportunity, and I'm just so thankful for everyone's support and words of encouragement. This has been very rough for us, but I know we can pull through, and this will make us stronger in the end. The next video should be coming up either tomorrow or the following day. Thanks, everybody.